evening. Thanks for tuning in to Big Story with me, Tanvi Shukla. We've got lots lined up for you, but first up, the headlines.
कुछ लोगों को एसएमएस आए कि आपका कर्जा माफ हो करने में आया, आप वो माफ के लिस्ट में हो, लेकिन अभी तक किसी का भी कर्जा माफ नहीं हुआ.
It's a dark new year for our farmers. Over 1,400 farmer suicides recorded from the state of Maharashtra despite a farm loan waiver announced by the government. Bengaluru police proposes early shutdown of pubs in separate zones for men and women this new year in an attempt to avoid any law and order issue. Poor people are drunkards who will vote for you if you offer chicken and alcohol. That's what UP Minister of Welfare for Backward Class has to say. Beat the heat with these air-conditioned locals. Mumbai gets its first ever AC local. 12 trains to ply between Churchgate to Virar from January 1st. South Delhi to Noida in just 19 minutes. The new Magenta line of Delhi Metro set to make travel faster and easier for locals. Prime Minister Narendra Modi flags off the new line. Also on the show, the Festival of Joy and Peace is here. Now wishes all of you a Merry Christmas. Well, Mirror Now has been constantly highlighting the increase in use of drugs in our country. It is official now. The data by Narcotics Control Bureau reveals a big spike in drug abuse of party drugs, namely synthetic drugs like MDMA and Meow Meow. Every day, we have reports of drugs being seized from different parts of our country. More and more teenagers and school students getting lured into the drugs. In fact, as a part of our campaign to say no to drugs, we are asking tonight, does the government have a plan to tackle India's drug problem? But why do we raise it now? What has been the kind of crackdown and what has that revealed? Let's go across to Apurva. Apurva, what is it that the NCB has found in the recent raids that they've conducted across the country?
Well, Tanvi, the recent seizures of high-end party drugs by the team of the Narcotics Control Bureau has certainly led to a lot of disclosures, particularly in the light of how Delhi and Goa have become the major transit points in terms of international drug trade. Now, in 32 successful operations that the Narcotics Control Bureau conducted within a span of 26 days between 1st of November 2017 to 27th of November 2017, 32 operations, they arrested 41 people, including 8 foreigners from across the country, and the kind of contraband that they recovered was actually alarming and concerning to a lot of extent. The fact that they actually went ahead and even raided major airports, because that is where a lot of contrabands were really seized. Now, according to the report that the NCB has, almost 10 kgs of cocaine, 12 kgs of heroin, 3 kgs of opium, 67 kg of hashish and many other psychotropic substances were raided from across the country. And not just that, Tanvi, it also went ahead and destroyed illicit crop cannabis farm of almost 72 acres in different parts of Odisha and West Bengal, in a clear indication of how international drug market is looking at India as a very, very viable option in terms of penetrating and plaguing the country with the drug menace. Now, Delhi and Goa have been identified as one of the main areas in terms of being a hotspot for drug sale, and also the fact that all these drugs are really coming through South American countries. They are routed through various other countries and then brought to India, and then through India it has been sent across to Delhi, being one of the main areas, and secondly it is Goa, which is another tourist destination. So certainly many concerning aspects there we're looking at, considering the hotspots needs to be identified, the trail of the drug market needs to be identified, and the manner in which this entire cartel is really working is something that the NCB will be looking at very soon.
Okay, stay on with me, Apurva. I'll come back to you for some more details, but I've also got Father Joseph Pereira, the founding and managing trustee of Kripa Foundation, joining us here on this show. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Father Pereira. What, according to you, is one of the biggest reasons that we're actually seeing such a spike in drug use and abuse by our youngsters these days, especially these party drugs or synthetic drugs?
Yeah, as I presented, my main cause of addiction is a frustration of the longing for love and for longing for a spiritual experience. And so this is the main reason. And youngsters who are running after this, searching for this high, are getting a crypto high in variety of drugs, and designer drugs are becoming more available. It's a crisis of the individual recognizing who one truly is. It's like Socrates said, know thyself. This our youngsters are running away from. They're running away from themselves. And that's a big reason for the materialism that has taken away the authentic search for God into all kinds of pseudo highs of drugs and alcohol.
What would your advice be to parents and maybe even teachers or elders? How do you tackle this problem? Often what we find is that generation is not even aware of the symptoms and what's really available out there in the market, easily accessible.
Yeah, it's a crisis of communication, and therefore Christmas is a feast of communication. God communicating with the human being to make the human being recognize one's original divinity. And parents have lost connection with their children. They have alienated the children because right up from childhood today, because of the various facilities, they have been giving them all kinds of amenities, all kinds of luxuries, but they have not been giving themselves to them. Children who come for treatment to me say to me that they have been given the best, but they have never had an experience of love. They have never sat with their parents. Parents have never understood where they are coming from, and that generation gap has been the main cause of this phenomenon of alienation, which causes addiction.
Okay, so apart from, of course, the fact that there is a communication breakdown and lack of conversation and understanding between children and their family, and especially their parents, Father, do we have enough options? Do we have enough avenues in our country for the number of addicts that are there in our country today?
Yes, because the whole program of recovery, as in the Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous, is exactly, replaying the same kind of tendencies that we have as human beings to come together, to celebrate together, to share one's life together. The same thing is being done on a holistic way by people who quit alcohol and drugs. So these fellowships are the future for our country. All over the world, we have Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. When these people come together, Carl Gustav Jung said that addiction will only be overcome by a direct awareness of one's true being, that is the divinity. But if that is not there, if the faith is not there in our children, then please create for them, what he says, a protective wall of human understanding. Our kids are good. They basically are going for these parties because they want to feel the love, and they get it, which they don't get in their families. They don't get it even in their churches, temples, and mosques. All these institutions have become obsolete for our children because they want true love and binding. They want to be bonded. And so they go clubbing. And not everybody who goes clubbing is doing drugs, but they want that love. And that is the solution for us. In Zurich, we have HIPAA Foundation tied up with an organization where we regularly have clean discourse. I wanted to have these clean discourse. The film stars coming and affirming over 100 recovered drug addicts who would come together, have good fun, but without any mind-altering substances. Let's foster those kind of good habits. And that's the thing. We have to replicate what was evil with the good. You have to really create a sense of fellowship. That's the answer. Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous should grow in this country.
Absolutely, Father. Thank you so much for speaking with us and sharing all of that information and your perspective as well on this. I just want to go back to Apurva. Apurva, what is the biggest concern right now? Are there specific, drugs that is what the NCB is finding more and more in various parts of our country?
Tanvi, right now the manner in which these contrabands are seized is something that is a matter of concern. Now there are two main concerns in front of the NCB, and that they found out in the due course of the raids that have been conducted. First and foremost, the kind of raids that have been conducted, especially in the national capital and Goa. Now if you remember, last month there was an American woman who was arrested for possession of 1.9 kg cocaine. Now let me just bring to your notice the manner in which the entire contraband was concealed. Now according to the NCB, and this is on record going on to saying that the identified Stephanie was arrested from a hotel in Paharganj with 1.9 kg of cocaine, and the packets were hidden under 28 thread rolls. So clearly the manner in which the drug peddlers who are using middlemen and internal routes to go through all these internal areas are using very, very sophisticated, or in fact using very, very high-end things to actually conceal the drugs, which cannot be really detected very easily. Also,
Right.
if you also the second most important concern is how they are actually going and getting these drugs across to their middlemen via airports. Now remember, airport is one place where you have checks and checks taking place, from security checks to various other checks. Now imagine if cocaine and every other psychotropic substances are being found in airports and high-end airports, like busiest airports like Delhi, Mumbai, Kochi, Kerala. All these airports, they have been raided, and a lot of drugs have been recovered from these airports. So clearly there is a trail. There is a clear trail on how these drug peddlers, who are certainly eyeing the international market, and it's all coming from South American cocaine. The South American cocaine is also going through all these routes and then being dispersed to the middlemen. They are using all of these techniques. Now the biggest concern, in fact the biggest thing that the NCB has to do now is to identify these hotspots, which is going to be a bigger concern because these are very, very minute. These are spread across. They have a whole network that is working
Right.
against it. So that is going to be a bigger concern as far as tackling this entire menace is concerned.
All right, Apurva, thanks so much for joining us and bringing us all of those details, as well as far as the rising use of drugs, especially the party synthetic drugs, is concerned. Moving on to the other big story, now the Karnataka government is attempting to give the city of Bengaluru a facelift to promote tourism and promote the cosmopolitan culture of the city. But incidents of the last 1 week have raised serious questions about just how inclusive and progressive the city's government authorities really are. First case in point is actor Sunny Leone's proposed New Year event in Bengaluru. Members of fringe group Karnataka Rakshana Vedike Yuva Sene threatened to commit mass suicide if the event was allowed to take place, or at least Sunny Leone was allowed to perform. The police now has issued a statement, and I quote, "We have rejected the permission to conduct the program Sunny Nights. No proper clarifications were given on various issues ranging from permissions to proper requisite arrangements. Since law and order has to be maintained throughout the city, so special attention cannot be given to this proposed program at wide Orchid," end of quote. In fact, let's go across to Imran for more on this story, Imran. And it's not just the Sunny Leone event where they seem to be giving technical reasons for lack of clarification for one specific event, but even the larger plan for December 31st isn't very encouraging.
Well, absolutely. Now the police had to give a clarification by December 25th as ordered by the High Court why they are rejecting Sunny Leone's event in Karnataka. There was a move by the organizers of the group. They went to the Karnataka High Court demanding that her event should be allowed to continue, as the police has given permissions to other pubs and bars to organize a similar kind of event. The court had given a deadline of December 25th. Now the police have come up with three reasons. They're saying that one, the necessary permissions are not there from other agencies but taken by the organizers. Two, that the number of people, what they have said, around 8,000 people, 8,000 tickets have been distributed. But according to their intelligence, that the number of people attending the event are much more. And because it's a Sunny Leone event, you can see much more people coming to the event. And since they are more concentrated in the city and especially on Brigade Road and MG Road, to prevent any kind of incident which happened last year, they will not be able to provide adequate security to the event. Hence, this event is cancelled. Now, this is a reply they'll be submitting in the High Court tomorrow, which of course will be the challenge by the organizer's lawyer. And we need to see what the High Court comes out with the answer, whether they accepts the police's version and cancels the event, or they ask the police to provide security and let the event continue. We spoke to the lawyer of the event, which is organizing company. They said that the police is lying. They had earlier given the permission just because of the pressure from the fringe groups, that they're now cancelling the event. What we hear is that they're going to challenge this in the High Court tomorrow. They're also going to show the earlier permission and also the permissions given to several other similar events like this, which are happening on December 31st night.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is really shocking. You know, the excuse cannot be because we don't want cases like what happened last year, that mass molestation incident, which, by the way, the authorities were in denial for the longest time. This time, they're not going to allow people to celebrate. So what is the plan, Imran? In fact, before I go across to Imran, we've got a reaction coming in from the BJP. Mr. S. Prakash has reacted to these new set of restrictions that the Bengaluru authorities have come out with. Let's listen to that.
What a ridiculous way of policing they are planning in Bangalore on New Year's Day. Instead of, why don't they impose curfew, then no incident can take place. Everything remains peaceful. This is not the way. Police are accepting their inability to control the mob or the people who congregate there. I hope they will have a rethought about it. Sure. This will further damage the image of Bangalore rather than improving it.
Take us through some of those details as well. What do they mean when they say that they're going to barricade some of these streets and that 70% of the space will be given to men and 30% separately? What happens to people who want to travel or party together?
Well, according to police, the rule will be implemented only on Brigade Road, which was an event where last year we saw allegedly mass molestations, for which Bangalore police had got a lot of flack. Now they come up with saying that only on this particular Brigade Road there will be sexes will be divided. Men and will be in 70% of the area, women will be 30% of the area. Now they have not told us very clearly how they are planning to divide the men and women, and how they are going to control the crowd, and with a huge influx of people who are coming there, how they're going to separate people between men and women, and what is the kind of measures they're going to implement. We spoke to the Commissioner of Police. He said that within 3 days' time, they're going to hold a press conference and they're going to give out their elaborate plan as to how they're going about it. But for now, what we're getting is that this 70-30 rule will be implemented only on Brigade Road, and for the largest security of the entire city, and especially the concentration will be on Brigade Road Junction, MG Road, and both the bottlenecks at the Anil Kumble Circle and Trinity Circle. This is the main area where the entire focus is on. The police have deployed 1,500 policemen will be deployed that day. 100 patrolling vehicles will be there to patrol the entire area. 400 high-definition CCTV cameras are there installed in several areas, sensitive areas, especially in MG Road, Brigade Road, and many other areas where reported incidents of molestation were reported last year. It will be monitored from the central control room here in Bangalore, at the Commissioner office. And apart from that, 200 floodlights have been installed in many of the areas to proper monitor this case. All these things have been appreciated by the Bangaloreans here, but some are questioning the logic of the police to go ahead and implement 70-30 rule. Some are even questioning, saying that women have fought hard to claim public spaces, and if the police is trying to implement this, then it defeats the whole purpose, it defeats the whole struggle which have then come to claim public spaces. Now, some of the voices we spoke to Bangalore on Brigade Road were also the supportive of the move. Some of the women we spoke to say that they don't mind this separation if it is of security. Security for them is paramount, but they don't mind these barricades. Now, overall, in the whole picture, this whole thing is not fitting into it. Opposition is crying foul, saying that this will damage brand Bangalore instead of a kind of sense of any protection or security. They should increase the policing rather than come up with this bizarre logic like this.
Yeah, and this too at a time when, they've come out with this Bangalore has actually become the first city to have a logo of its own. The tagline says Bengaluru be you, and the aim is to highlight the cosmopolitan culture of the city. In fact, this is the first time people of the city had come together and crowdsourced this idea, which has now been finalized and implemented. Let me take that point across to Mr. Brijesh Kalappa of the Congress. Mr. Brijesh Kalappa, be you as the logo of Bengaluru. Does that really go down well when, police comes out and says that we can't let men and women on MG Road be together on the eve of New Year's, or when the state minister comes out and says, well, we can't have Sunny Leone perform in our city, we might as well have some more cultural programs. Is that the futuristic city we're talking about?
I don't think anybody's statement makes the slightest difference, because Bangalore has been adjudged to be the most vibrant city, not just in India, but in the world. So Bangalore already has that that kind of a description, and this is something which we are very proud of. As far as the segregation in Bengaluru's central business district is concerned, and that is for a reason, and you all know the reason why it was done. It was done because on the 31st of December last year, despite the fact that there was no such incident, some newspapers, some television channels, which we call the North Korean television channels, they started a campaign against Bengaluru, saying that lots of women were molested. In fact, this news report came on the 2nd or 3rd of January, while even reporters who were there on the 31st of December, they said that no such incident had occurred, and the press stuck to their guns. They said, no, there was a mass molestation. Ultimately, none of it was able to be proved.
I don't know what your team on ground told you, but we had people who had actually faced that, who came and spoke to us. But irrespective of that, if you believe that that incident did not take place, then what is the Bengaluru police so worried about, that they want to segregate men and women on the eve of New Year's? Is that the way of implementing law and order?
No, but how do you then otherwise, if there are lakhs of people who have congregated there, and if both men and women are together, how many policemen do you require to keep these hoodlums at bay? How many policemen? That number of policemen we don't have. So the only option is to segregate.
Let me put that question across to Pramila Nesargi. Pramila Nesargi, even though the government of Karnataka doesn't admit that there was mass molestation last year around New Year's, they have gone ahead and put in some restrictions, whether it's shutting down pubs and clubs early or segregating men and women on their in the prime area of Bengaluru on New Year's Eve. Do you believe that this is the correct way of going ahead and implementing, safety features on such a big day?
I only feel that the police are becoming mad. See, the entire thing, root cause for any crime is the drinking, the alcohol. We wanted this alcohol to be stopped on 3-4 days so that people can enjoy, and without they cannot get intoxicated and misbehave. But they do not want. Police come and file an affidavit that they get income. Lots of revenue is coming, so they do not want to close it. But on the other hand, they say they want to segregate men and women. How can they do it? See, after all, men and women are part and parcel of this society. They enjoy on the day, Christmas Eve. They go together. Friends go together, husband and wife go together. So this is the way they enjoy. If they want to bifurcate, husband and wife, and if they want to bifurcate brother and sister, if they want to bifurcate the good friends, what is the use of having fun? It cannot be. On the other hand, they must know how to maintain law and order. In other words, they're accepting they are not in a position to maintain law and order. I only say, if you cannot maintain law and order, then better resign and go. This is what I expect. This is not the way.
Right.
Otherwise, there is no. I for one would feel that people, especially youngsters, they're waiting whole year to enjoy with friends. That's my feel.
Right, Pramila Nesargi, thank you for speaking with us. Brijesh Kalappa, thank you for responding to our questions. And this big story is the big debate later tonight as well. Is this the way Bengaluru is going to build the image of being open and progressive and futuristic? Or does the police need to come up with better measures to ensure that people actually have a fun, yet a safe New Year celebration? That is a wrap on this edition of Big Story. Thank you for joining us.